Hello guys, this is Mank and it's my second video today and the topic is about metaphysical poetry. So let's start the topic. First we have to know the origin of the metaphysical poetry. The metaphysical poetry came to be written in the Jacobean age by the 17th century England. Donne is the founder of this school of poetry who led the revolt against the conventional poetry of the age. Dr. Johnson called Donne and his followers metaphysical poets. It was a tone of contempt, as according to Dr. Johnson, in metaphysical poetry, most heterogeneous ideas are yoked by violence together. Now move on to the main characteristics of the metaphysical poetry. So the number one is conceit. The metaphysical poets wanted to say what they hoped had never been said before. They played with thoughts as the Elizabethan age had played with words. For the beauty of the sounds and imaginary, they may have only subtlety thoughts. So, point out the line by John Donne from the poem The Flea. Mark but this flea, and marks in his. How little that which you deniest me is. May it suck first, and now sucks thee, and in this flea are two bloods mingled be. Donne says to his beloved, "Oh, my America, my new-found land." In a single phrase it impacts so much meaning, telling his readers how much he valued her. America had only recently been discovered, and it was full of spices and gold and silver. Now move on to the second characteristics, and this is far-fetched images. A comparison is often made between objects that have little in common. Herbert compares a virtuous soul to seasoned timber. Only a sweet and virtuous soul like seasoned timber never gives. But though the whole world turn to coal, then chiefly lives. This is the line by George Herbert from his poem Virtue. Number 3. It's hyperbole. Metaphysical poetry abounds hyperboles that could not be imagined. Donne addresses his beloved, "Oh, my America." He calls the sun busy old fool for peeping at him in bed with his beloved through the windows. Now move on to the fourth characteristics of metaphysical poetry, and that's the treatment of inward. The metaphysical deals with what passed in their mind. They did not describe what they saw, but only what they felt. They did not describe what a woman looked like, but only what it was like to be in love with her or out of it. Says all states, all princes I. This is the line by John Donne. You can use it at the court. Number 5 is obscurity. Metaphysical is not easily understandable. It is partly due to their learning, but mainly due to its peculiar thought, and still more peculiar in its expression. Johnson, who admired Donne heartily and not uncritically, predicted he would perish from not being understood. Now move on to the sixth characteristics of metaphysical poetry, and that's the argumentativeness. Each metaphysical is an extended argument. The pulley tries to prove how God's love for man is like the pulley. Both use a pulley-like device to lift. The force is applied downward to lift the weight. Now begin some topic. Now begin the metaphysical poet. Number 1 is Donne. In many ways, it is not unfair to summarize Donne's remarkable genius by saying that he was an Elizabethan Browning. He gives nearly everything, a verse and stanza, from peculiar to himself. He emphasizes his thought by fantastic metaphors and hyperboles. He has an originality and force for which we look in vain among the Elizabethan poets. Sometimes his conceits are so odd that we lose sight of the thing to be ecclesiastical. With him, love is spider which drops into the wine of life and turns it into poison. An illustration of the metaphysical may be found in his curious poems, The Progress of the Soul and Metempsychosis, in which he pursues the vital spark through various transmigrations, including those of a bird and a fish. In his songs and holy sonnets, he is conceitful. His famous sonnet, Teeth, ends with Teeth, thou shalt die. He was the master of the metaphysical poetry. Now move on to the second poet of metaphysical, and this is Herbert of the school of Donne. Herbert is the most widely read by reason of his clearness of presentment and his happy knack for using conceits sufficiently obvious to most people. Many of his poems are directly connected with God and expressed with a conversational tone with intimacy, yet he is never sentimental. This gives his poem a dramatic quality. I struck the board, I cried no more. His poems in the temple are peculiarly honest and sincere. Now move on to the third poet, and this is Crasso. His best work is Steps to the Temple. His images are pictorial rather than intellectual, emotional rather than thoughtful. In many, Crasso was not metaphysical. His poems revealed no complexity of mind, and the man is not colloquial. At the same time, he has the metaphysical founders for the striking conceit. He is at his best in religious verse. His best work lies undoubtedly in the Flaming Heart, though some of his lighter things have a pleasant grace about them. Novice's own mistress, in which he says, whoever she be, that not impossible, see, that shall command my heart and me. Move on to the fourth poet, and this is Vaughan. His work never rises to the heights reached by Crasso, but he had a considerable gift of fantasy, and used it to decorate his serious muse rather than to weave garlands for his pagan love. His love poems, though they are often beautifully phrased, are inferior to his religious poem. Like Black, he touched the deeper mysteries with childlike simplicity and music. The Retreat is his best known poem, in which he says, some men a forward motion love, but I by backward steps would move, and when this dust falls to the urn, in that state I came return. Silex Scintillans is his best known work. Now move on to the fifth poet, and this is Marble. Another metaphysical poet of fine power is Andrew Marvell. In technique he was admirable. Marvell's The Garden for Shadows gets by its sensuousness. How vainly men themselves amaze to win the palm, the oak or base, and their incessant labours see crowned from some single herb or tree. These are the lines from The Garden by Andrew Marvell. Into his coy mistress, wit is sought through with passion. In these poems, Marvell is the supreme metaphysical poet. Generally, though not always, his fondness for conceit is controlled by very good taste, and it can be seen by this line: the grave is a fine and private place, but none, I think, do there embrace. His finest poem is the novel Horatian Ode to Cromwell. So, guys, this was the description of metaphysical poetry. I hope it will be helpful for all the students of English literature. Thank you so much.